denied. Minister in the presidency, Kumbuzo Ntshabeni, has accused the private sector of trying to collapse government. It's after the British multinational Standard & Chartered Bank admitted as recently as last week that it engaged in currency manipulation affecting the rand. The Competition Commission is now investigating 27 other banks believed to have been involved in the same scheme to fix the rand-dollar exchange rate between 2007 and 2013. Let's take this further with Business Unity South Africa's CEO, Cas Coovadia. Cas, a very good evening to you. Always good to have you on News at Prime. So is business in South Africa anti-government to the extent where it wants to collapse the state and the country?
Well, patently not. I spend probably 80% of my time currently on the partnership that business has got with government through the presidency, with the very, very active involvement of President Ramaphosa on partnering government to make a real difference in three critical areas: energy, logistics and transport, and crime and corruption. The partnership is working well. We're making progress. So far from business not being interested in the development of South Africa, far from business wanting to bring government down, we are working with government and we have raised funds to actually donate capacity to government and expertise to government to do some of the stuff that government needs to do. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think the comments by the minister are extremely unfortunate. I hope that she will perhaps clarify them. But from what I've seen, we've just got to say quite clearly that it's far from the case. In fact, our partnership with government since we first met with the President Ramaphosa in April this year has been better than the partnership we've had with government before. Mm-hmm. So it's far from the facts, and it's a very, very unfortunate statement.
Unfortunate, you say, but did it come as a surprise to you that, based on what was said by the minister at a government podium, that basically she's expressed what appears to be a very dim view of business in South Africa from the post-cabinet meeting?
Yeah, well, it is surprising. And it's quite honestly, it's shocking because the facts just don't bear that out. I mean, we have a meeting. We've been meeting with the president and his team, approximately 9 to 10 ministers, and I think the minister and the presidency has been part of that. In those meetings, we have the head of the NPA, the deputy head of the NPA, we have the chairs of the Eskom and Transnet boards, we have the CEOs of those organizations, we have senior people from the police force, from the security services. We have all of government there. And we're working together on these initiatives. We report back to the president in those meetings every 6 to 8 weeks. We have another meeting next week. So all of that just doesn't relate to the comments made by the minister. And I must say, I would be very surprised if the president agrees with these comments, to be quite honest with you, because our interaction with the president on this partnership has been very positive. And in fact, we've agreed that we must limit to the extent we can any sort of negative statements about each other unless they are absolutely necessary. Business in partnership with government has not conducted itself as business in any way in a way that the minister alleges. If there's a problem with Standard Chartered, and I have no truck with that. If Standard Chartered acted in a way that manipulated the rand, Competition Commission has found that they did do that. They've reached a settlement with Standard Chartered. Then talk about Standard Chartered. I have a problem with any bank manipulating the rand, but that has taken its course. The Competition Commission has made a call, and Standard Chartered has paid a fine, and that's it. But if she wanted to comment on Standard Chartered, go ahead and comment on Standard Chartered and their conduct. But say that business in this country is trying to bring government down and is not interested in the development of this country. It's just not true.
And on the issue of the manipulation of the currency, we know that Standard Chartered is the only one at this point that's reached an agreement with the Competition Commission, is going to pay this fine of over 40 million rand. Some say, well, that's a drop in the ocean when you consider the size of the bank. It's also going to cooperate, as I understand it, in further investigations on the involvement of other banks in similar conduct. To what extent does a scandal of this magnitude, what appears to have been blatant criminality, does that undermine, do you think, then, legitimately relations between government and indeed business when you consider the alleged involvement of even local role players in what's gone on here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we have laws in place, and the law is working. The fact that Standard Chartered has had interaction with the Competition Commission, the Competition Commission has taken certain decisions, shows that the law and processes we have in place to deal with the sort of conduct is working. So it has no bearing on the private sector's partnership with government on the things we're working with them. And it should have no bearing. The work we're doing is in the national interest. If we are successful in this work, we believe that by the end of next year, we'll have created 3% growth and 300,000 jobs. Now, what should we be talking about here? That or what the minister said?
And just on the issue then at hand, as you say, you would prefer for the issue of the conduct of the banks to be discussed perhaps separately from overall relations between the South African government and business. Is what has happened with Standard Chartered as far as this fine, is that enough of a punishment when you consider the impact that this conduct would have had not only on ordinary South Africans, but even on yourselves as South African business people?
I don't know. I don't know the particular case. I'm not with the Banking Association anymore, so I am nowhere close to what happened there. So I honestly have no information on it, and I don't know. I think you should ask whether you want to ask BUSA or others, but I just don't know because I don't have information on this particular case, and it would be irresponsible for me to comment on it.
How will you take this up, if at all, with government? The comments by the minister, which you earlier described as unfortunate, will you, for want of a better phrase, lodge an official grievance, for example?
No. We have a partnership with government. We'll deal with it through the structure of that partnership in a constructive way, and I'm sure we'll be able to resolve it. We don't want this to impact negatively on the work we're doing with the government at the moment, and it will not impact negatively.
It comes back somewhat to my earlier point about this possibly undermining the overall relationship, because some of the other commentary on this has been that it's a reminder, is it not, that, and I know you said you're not familiar with the full set of details on this, but it's a reminder that corruption in this country and even globally goes beyond just the conduct of government, that even in the private sector, there clearly are individuals and entities who are just equally, or if not more, corrupt than some of what we've seen from government.
Well, I don't know who needs a reminder about that. I certainly don't need a reminder about that. We have said consistently,
perhaps
corruption,
not you, Cas, but there is a perception in this country that when we talk about corruption, it's often reduced to a government ill, but clearly, across the board, private and public sector, there is corruption.
There's no perception in BUSA about that. I'm speaking on behalf of BUSA. BUSA has publicly said, after the Zondo Commission report, that both public sector and private sector people who are involved in corruption must be acted upon, and action must be taken against both. Of course, some parts of the private sector has been involved in corruption. It takes two to corrupt. So we've been consistent with that. And if they are, and government must still act on the Zondo recommendations. And if part of those actions is to where there's a prima facie case against a private sector company related to corruption, then government must act against them. And we will certainly support government acting against anybody, be it in the public or private sector, acting in an unethical manner. And we've been consistent in that.
Cas Coovadia from Business Unity South Africa, always good to speak to you. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.